Okay, so we're going to look at the setup that I'm using for just basic ledger fishing. So I'm going to do a video once in the future. I'm going to do a back to basics video. I've been saying it for quite a few years and I want to do it, but I want to do it in my own time, you know, when I feel a little bit more fitter and I can take a lot more equipment with me. So today's more about the social and about enjoying myself, but I want to give a few of you guys exactly what I've been using and the sort of tactics you use on these type of venues, these commercial fisheries and these sort of small lakes, so to speak. So let's have a look at the hardware before I show you casting out, and then I'll show you the setup on the rods that I'm using in terms of bite indication. So I get asked a hell of a lot all the time, what's the most basic way of setting up a float rod for beginners to get into float fishing for pike, or just pike fishing in general. But I also equally get, not as many, but equally get rigs for dead baiting, for using alarms and ledgering techniques, because a lot of anglers, you know, carp anglers and barbel anglers, they tend to own alarms and carp rods and strong enough rods that can cope with a job for pike. Now these are Fox pike rods. These are the Fox Predator rods. I've had these since 2014. They're 2 3/4 pound test curve. In this day and age, a lot of pike rods now, you know, upwards of 3 pound test curve. Back in the day when I first started fishing, a 2 to 2.5 pound test curve rod is sort of the equivalent of a 3 to 3.5 now, in terms of materials and the sort of techniques you tend to use for pike fishing. But it's all relative. If you've got heavy duty 3 pound plus sort of carp rods, you can make do with those. But this is a Fox Predator rod. I'll show you just for a matter of course. This is the 2014 version. You can see the graphics on there are a lot different, but it's practically the same rod as what's around today. There's no difference, just rebranding. 2014, 2 3/4 pound, 12 foot. 12 foot is the go-to that most people use for their predator fishing. Over recent years I've been tend to use 10 and 9 foot rods, due to the fact that a lot of the waters I fish are quite small, and I could quite easily have made done with 10 foot rods on here, but for a matter of course today we're using 12 foots. That's coupled with a 8,000 reel, perfectly balances this rod. You could get away with using a 6,000 or a 10,000 or a big pit if you're a carp angler. The most important part is the line. Now the line, for me, I started off with monofilament, and you can see there's monofilament on there. That's Fox Camo soft steel. Now a lot of pike anglers nowadays, if you're getting into your pike fishing, pike anglers use braid. Now I prefer braid. There's no stretch in it. You feel every little knock, every little head shake, especially when you're lure fishing, but equally the same for bait fishing. You can wind down on a fish at distance. Braid's got so many properties and values for predator fishing, it's untrue. But you have to stick to rules of fisheries, unfortunately, especially on commercials like this. This commercial fishery does not allow braid to be used. On the river you can use it, on the lakes you can't. Now there are very different reasons why you probably can and can't do that, which I'm not going to get into because we'll be sitting here all day. I'm using 16 pound monofilament. Now I don't suggest you go any lower than 15 pound monofilament for dead baiting for pike. If you've got 15 pounds on your carp rods and you want to use that, then that's fine. But if you can get into using braid, it's so much better. I always use bait runners if I can when I'm ledger fishing, and I'll show you a little bit the reason why when I'm setting up later as to the reason why I prefer bait runners. With your big pit reels you're going to have to adjust a little bit differently, but you'll see how quick and easy it is to set up using bait runners. The only time I don't really use bait runners is if I'm float fishing. I've got a couple of reels I use in my float fishing, and again bait runners come in handy when I'm float fishing and I'm sort of winding up, letting line out, and that's exactly why I like using bait runners on the ledger setup. But again, I'll show you that in a little while. And let's come down to the terminal tackle now. The terminal tackle I'm using a Fox ledger stem. Again, you can get them from any company out there. There's so many companies out there that make ledger stems now. Pike Pro. I don't belong to any of them, I'm just telling you what I use. But being a bit of a tackle making connoisseur, I've actually got plans in mind to make my own ledger stems, and again I will show you how to make them on the channel once I've perfected and I've made them. So it's not just floats that I make, or bobbins, or drop arm indicators. It's ledger stems, anything that I can make to use in my fishing that I can make myself and get satisfaction from doing, I'm going to do. But there are places you can buy these from. So this is just a ledger stem. What the ledger stem allows you to do is that you can imagine when that casts out and sits on the bottom and the dead bait falls down, that's going to keep any line off of any debris and crap on the bottom, like leaves that fall in there through the autumn, and that just keeps it off the bottom. So when the pike picks it up and starts to move away, you can see there's a large bore run ring there. As it starts to move away, then the as you can, well, hang on, sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. So yeah, as it starts to move away with a dead bait and it moves off the spot, that stays put. I mean, that's a 2.5, 3 ounce lead, so that stays put. So it's a nice smooth action. You can see it's nice and smooth, and like I say, it just keeps it above all that debris and crap on the bottom. That's got a buffer bead. These beads actually come with this this system, and like I say, these are the boom systems. Then I've got a lock link. I love using lock links because I can take these traces off on and off in seconds. If I want to change bait, if it gets snapped up by a pike's teeth, if I've had a pike, if I've got a pike in the net and I want to undo it so I can move, so the rod's not in the way, I can get the rod out of the way, and all I've got to deal with is the fish and a trace. Having a lock link, I never used to do it in the early days. I'll always suggest that people do that nowadays. It's an 18-inch wire trace made by myself. This one is I think it's the Esox trace from Super Trace or Super Esox trace from Drenham. It's 28-pound wire to 2 size 6 trebles, again from Drenham, the Esox range, and then again the crimped sleeves over the top. I like using crimped sleeves because it neatens everything off, so you don't get all debris and crap built up inside it. It just keeps it a little bit, and it also gives a little bit of fleck of colour. If that makes a difference or not, it just gives me confidence. So what we're going to do is we're just going to mount a dead bait. So I'm going to grab one out. I've got a mackerel on the other rod, and I'm going to use bluey on this rod. So I like to keep my dead baits in a freezer bag with a freezer block. Keeps them nice and fresh. Some people get a bit paranoid and they want to have their baits sort of thawed out so they can inject them and so on and so forth. Still keeps them nice and cool. Freezer bait. Been in here since this morning. There's my blueies. I've got small blueies. Oh, drop the rod. So yeah, just take one of the blueies out. Yeah, those freezer bags are really handy. You know, Pike Pro, again, I'm not sponsored by any of these. I'm just telling you what I use. You know, these are Pike Pro scissors. I never take knives out on the bank anymore, especially if I'm fishing around London and I'm fishing in inner city London. It's just not worth it, especially with the likes of the police walking around, and you can get yourself in all sorts of trouble. So I keep bait scissors. I think they're about £3.50, £4 a pair, if that. So what I like to do is I cut the head off of the bluey. Usually with a mackerel I cut the tail off, so it makes it more aerodynamic, so I'll do that with a bluey. It's quite a long thin fish if you've never seen a bluey before. You can tell why it's called a bluey. It's got little bluey markings on it. And then what we do is we're just going to mount that. Again, any beginners, don't make things too complicated. There's all different ways to mount fish. If you go on my channel, I'll put a link in the description or up in the top corner and at the end of the video. And what it does is it shows you how to mount different baits, how I like to mount different baits. So I'll put one in the tail root, get a good purchase. So one in the tail root, that'll take the brunt of the cast, and then the other one down the flank. I'll show you that when I've done it. There we go. And that's how I mount mine, so it sits on the bottom. So theoretically, when a pike, because the pike tend to eat head first, for those of you that are not pike fishermen, you're carp fishermen or you're just getting into it, they sort of pick it up and they try to eat it head first. All the leakage is going to come from that part. Now you can inject it, you can pop it up if you want to pop it up. Again, I'll show you that maybe a little bit later. And you can make little nicks in it and slices to permeate and let a lot more juice and oils come out. The reason why I like using hole like that, if I do get a take or a run, I can see the slash marks on my pike and not getting confused from scissor marks. So next thing to do is cast it out, and then I'll show you how I set it up on the Ledger indication setup that I have. Okay, so I'm just going to cast this out now. One's already out, the right hand rod's out. I'm just going to put this down here where I had the fish earlier on, just down to the left hand side in the margins. I'm not going to overarm cast it, I'm just going to underarm flick it. Normally I have a bait halfway down at the spigot. Because I'm underarming it, I like to have it a little bit less down. So I like to have a long drop on it. So it makes it easier for me to underarm it then. Simple as that. Rod tip down, sink the line. That's it, line sunk. Tighten up a little bit, I can feel the lead. It's a 3.5 ounce lead. So 2.5, 3.5 ounce lead, it's incidental. It's a nice heavy lead. I actually thought a fish took it then. I think a fish may have taken it. Maybe not. I thought a fish may have taken that on the drop. So I'm just going to tighten down to the lead again. Then put the bait runner on and on to the rest. And then next step, I'm going to bring you over here and I'm going to show you how to set it up. I really thought a fish had taken it on the drop then. Just watching where the line enters the water. Must be my imagination. Right, I'm going to bring you back and I'm going to show you how I set it up. Okay, so yeah, I thought I had a fish take then on the drop, but it was probably my imagination. But it's always worth investigating because that can happen. Numerous times I've cast out and the fish has had it on the drop, but I've literally landed that bait on its head, or the fish has seen it flutter through the water. So we just cast our rod out, sunk the line. Next step is indication. Now, I've left the bait runner on. Once I've tightened down to the lead and I put the rod on the rest, what I've done is I left the bait runner on while I did it. The bait runner is on its lowest setting, so when I put it back on the rest, you can hear it clicking off. So it means I don't dislodge the lead. Then what I do is I have the bow arm at the top of the rod. I give it a little tug outwards, just give it a tiny bit of line, still leaving the bait runner on. Now at this point I don't put the alarm on till last. I set the alarm till last. The way you want to have your rod set up is you want them down at an angle. The way I have it is a slight an angle. So you've got the front alarm at the front. I like using Delkims. These are the pluses. I've had these for about 16 years. You can see you've got the old London Predator Angler logo on there. They're red. Just for a matter of course, being a bit of a tackle tart, I like red. Red is a predator colour for me, so I tend to use my red Delkims. I've got various different colours. Yellow I use for cruising fishing, green I use for tenching, carping I use blue. So, you know, I use various different colours because of species, what I associate with species. It's just me being, it doesn't matter, it's just me being a bit of a tackle tart and a bit, you know, a bit OCD about it. So we've got our front alarm. Again, it's not sent on, it's high sensitivity. Because I'm not casting too far out, I want it to be ultra sensitive. Now, normally you would have your rods pointing directly at the bait that you're fishing, direct to the lead. I like to have a slight, and I mean an ever so slight angle, because the rod tip sometimes gives it away. The last fish I had, the rod tip was bouncing as well as the alarm going. Before the drop arm set off, I knew there was a fish there. It's almost like quiver tipping at the same time as using your alarm system setup. So that line's direct tight to the lead. So next stage, bait runner's still on. What we do is we pull the arm round as far as we can. So the arm's at the bottom. We take our drop arm indicator. Now, our drop arm indicator various different companies sell them. I'm going to start making these for myself. These are Fox ones. These are the Mark 2s. I think they're on Mark 4s at the moment. I've had these for a good, I don't know, 13, 14 years, and they do the job perfectly. You can see these a mile off. I was sitting in the swim across the water. Rods wasn't in, but I could see these drop-offs from the other side of the water. That just shows how they show up. So the brighter the colour you can get, the better. There's so many different companies on the market that make these, from MIDI to Fox to Pike Pro, which now make them. You can get independent makers like Billy Backbiters. They tend to make them. There's so many different companies that make these drop arm indicators now, and they're all affordable. I think these are about £10 each, give or take, 12 quid, something like that. But you can make these yourself, and I will show you how to do that in the future. So what we want to do is you want to make sure this red part here, where the clip is directly under the spool. So it's directly in line under the spool. We clip it on. Now bearing in mind the bait runner's still on, so if I get a fish, that's going to run off with it. So I'm going to get an indication even while setting it up. You can see it's gone slack. So what I then do, the reason why I like the bait runner is so I can set it up without having to adjust the drag, the fighting drag that you actually play the fish on. So when I finally pick the rod up and I start playing the fish, the fighting drag system is exactly set how I want it to be set without messing around with it. If you've got big pit reels without a bait runner system, you then got to adjust your drag before you strike into a fish. You don't want to strike into a fish and then you've got a really loose drag and then it just all peels off. So that's the reason why I like using the bait runner system. And then what I do, just using my finger, just tighten up, undo the bail arm, just tighten up so the head's directly under the spool of the reel, and then take the bait runner off, disengage it. So now the bail arm's open, the head's directly under the spool of the line, so at the front of the reel. So what'll happen is if I get a take, that's going to ping out, and then the head will drop back. Or if I get a drop back take, so the fish comes running towards me, picks the bait up and runs towards me, especially with a low resistant run ring that I had on there, as you saw, then that will drop backwards and it will give me an indication on the Delkins. Now the reason why I like using Delkins in conjunction with these sort of heads is because the Delkins have got high sensitivity. So you feel every little nook and knock and stuff. Because with pike fishing, it's very, very important you have a very sensitive bite indication when you're ledgering like this. Most people on the market, well, most people who carp fish now use Delkins. So let's switch it on and we'll test it quickly. I don't have it very high, so I'm sitting right near the rods. You can see just by touching them like that how sensitive I have them. Same with the other one. You can see just how sensitive I have them. And there you have it. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science. Very basic, it's very simple, it does the job perfectly. I am actually thinking of investing in some new rods. There's nothing wrong with these, I love these rods. Cheap as chips. I think I paid, you can still get them nowadays, but I think I paid, let's bring you in and show you them a little bit closer. So these rods, I think I paid about 70 quid for them at the time, each. Lovely matte finish. Again, you can buy them, they've got different graphics on them now. I think Fox have actually even brought out a new version, an elite version, which has got black foam handle. I like my cork, I'm traditional, I like my cork. But I'm looking to get some new rods. I've always wanted a new set of rods, a really nice set of rods, like top quality ones. I've been looking at getting some Free Spirit special banks. They're not cheap, but they're something I've wanted for years. I'm also thinking about getting some backbiters, some Billy Backbiters, and giving them a go. So, but this system here, this setup here, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and this will catch you plenty of pike. Like I say, for you carpers out there and people that are just getting into your fishing, Delkins you more than likely have. You can use roller wheel ones. You know, if you've got Fox ones that are roller wheels, they'll do the job. But I just think the extra sensitivity on a Delkin is, for this sort of fishing, is brilliant. And then you've got your drop-off arm indicators. So rather than use your bobbins at the front, some people do like to use them. I personally don't for pike fishing. I just think they're too finicky, they're fiddly, don't give you the best presentation. And also using this system, you've got an open bail arm, so there's going to be no additional weight. As soon as that pike pulls the line out of the clip, or it gets a drop back, it feels no weight at all. And that's the reason why I like these systems. And again, you can pick these up various different companies between 10 and 20 quid. You can get the weighted version of these, but the heads are quite weighty as they are. If I was fishing on a day where it's really blowing a hoolie and I'm sitting in my bivvy and it's wind and rain, then I probably would turn the sensitivity down and I'd probably put my weighted versions ones on. But that's it really. That's all you really need to start off pike fishing. Like I say, you can use your carp tackle if you're only fishing close in, and that's it. There you go, folks. It's got a little bit cold, so a little bit chilly. So I've wrapped up a little bit more, put my coat on. So what I'm going to show you, and I will show you more in depth in a rig clinic maybe, where I'll actually show you how to make it, is I've got two types of pop-up rigs that I use for my pike fishing. I try to keep things very simple. I think you can overcomplicate things. And again, like I say, I will show you how to make them, but let me show you the rig to start with. It's 18 inches long. Again, you can have it as long as you want it, 24 inches, 20 inches. I don't like to drop below 18 inches for any of my traces, unless it's for paternoster fishing. But I don't want to sort of blow your mind with that for you newbies. We'll talk about paternoster in another day. There's nothing special about it. It's 28 pounds wire. This is a French wire. It's different to the wire I was using earlier. Don't ask me to pronounce it. It's in French, and I can't speak English, let alone foreign language. Okay, I didn't learn it at school. 2 size 6 trebles with crimp covers over the top, and as you can see there, slightly down the line, I have a clip actually fixed. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little clip that you use for perch fishing, a little link clip, whatever you want to call them, and the sleeve, it's actually crimped on the line, and the sleeve goes over the top. Okay, I actually like using these adjustable, so you can adjust it to the size of the bait you're using, but all this is guesswork. Okay, so we'll leave that open for the minute to one side. The second part of the rig is this little boom section. You can use rigging wire, you can use any sort of poundage really. This is just to keep the bait, to keep the buoyant aid to the trace. So you imagine the bait's going to go through this, you're going to put your trebles into it, and then that's going to clip to the clip that I've mounted on the trace. It'll all become apparent when I show you in a moment. And then I've got a lovely bluey section, one of the small blueys that I had my bait on, my fish on earlier, and I've skewered that on a baiting needle up through the centre so it comes out the top. You can see it's just poking through there. So what you want to do is you want to take your trace with your floating aid on. You can use any poppers you want. Again, I'll show you how to make these in the future. And I'll just clip it onto the end and pull the bait down. There we go. So the bait is now attached all the way through the centre, onto the buoyant aid. Then what we do, the little clip that I mounted on the main trace, I then clip the bottom of that on. It's a bit fiddly, got cold hands. Yeah, I've got very cold hands, so just bear with me, people. There we go. So I've clipped it on. So now you've got trebles flaying. Just bring this, neaten it off. Crimp cover. And then all we need to do is mount the trebles into the fish, as you normally would. So one in the bottom, the root, one down the side of the bait. There we go. So you imagine that's how it's going to sit, popped up off the bottom. Now it's a bit like an adjustable zig rig. So you imagine this part of the rig is tied to the main line. As you imagine, if you didn't have the buoyant aid on there, that would just be a normal bait laying on the bottom. Because it's popped up, it will pop up off the lead. So because I'm using a largely resistant run ring on the bottom of the lead, if I let out line, this is going to go up in the water. So I'm going to start off by fishing it 18 inches high off the bottom, so just over a foot off bottom, including obviously the boom that I've got on there as well. I could take the boom off, but I'm going to leave it on. So I'm going to start off fishing at that depth. Like I say, that 21 pounder was caught mid-water, and I can always adjust the depth. I can have this just to the surface if I want to fish a feed in there, and that's the beauty of using these pop-up rigs. So I'd be stupid and foolish not to give this a go. So I'm going to clip it up, cast it out, sit back, and we'll see if we'll have a fish. Absolutely fantastic little rig that. You can imagine, as I told you before, with the adjustable one, I'd pull that down so it'd all neaten off. But that little loop there is not going to cause any harm or hassle, so that should be fine. Let's cast it out.